This is the lesson 1 tutorial for getting things started in our AutoCAD class. These are instructions. You'll find these on Blackboard or in our shared drive folder, and I'll go over that in a second here, how to get that started for that. We'll start off with following through these instructions. This is the PDF version of that. Again, you'll have a copy of these available to you either on Blackboard or in our S drive folders. On the S drive, that should be created for you now, and you can find that if we open up a new browser window here. We pop one up and I'll show you how to navigate to that. So here, if I just open File Explorer window, and I'm actually in Windows 11, so it's a little bit different looking for that, but it works the same in Windows 10 for that. So here's your general file one. In the labs, you're going to see different files. This is I'm on my home computer, so I'll see different files than you may be seeing in here for that. But you're going to come down to the drives, and if you haven't used the computers on campus much before, you may not realize all the different drives are made available to you. So down here, the C drive, that's your local drive on your computer in the lab that we're working on. You have, each of you as a student has an H drive, and that's your personal drive, and you're the only person who has access to files on the H drive. So in general, you don't want to save files to the desktop on the computers in the lab or to the C drive, because those are local files on that local machine, and when you log off, they'll be erased. So they do not keep files on the local machines when you're done, because they're shared machines. And so if you keep anything on the desktop or in the C drive or the D drive, they're going to be gone once you log off. So don't do that. When you want to keep them, you can keep files in the H drive. That'll protect them. So you can get back to them anytime you want for that. But that's only, you can access that. Where we are working in instructions, you'll see here, is we're going to be working in the S drive. And this is a shared drive. That's why S comes from. So it's a shared drive, and we have a shared drive for the College of Engineering. And for this class, we all have files created in there, or folders created in there that we can keep our files in. That is where you should be keeping your files. You should be saving your files to the S drive. And then when we grade the files and need to look at them, we can, myself and the TA can log in, and we can find your files there and grade it. And every time you come back to lab, or even if you're at the dorm, you can find your S drive and you can keep your files there in those folders. So you'll have access to it all the time, as well as myself in the grader, and when we need to get access to it. And so if you go to the S drive, we'll open that up. We can expand it. You're going to see over here, here's the College of Engineering. That's where we're at. And so we're going to go to College of Engineering. CE151. You won't see as many folders as I have shown here because you don't have access to those, but you should see CE151. That's our class. Open that up, and now you have 3 folders in here. 151B, nothing is being used in there. We used to have 2 sections of it. We only have 1 section this year. So all of you have a folder in CE151-A. We double click that and open it up, and here's all your files. Here's all your folders. This is your login name or username on the Valpo computer system. And hopefully you recognize these and you know whom is whom in here. So you'll pick out your own. You probably won't see everybody else's. You'll only see your own file because you only have access to your own folder on here. And so I made one called sample. We can all see it, and I can open that up in their sample. There's nothing in it right now, and your files will be empty as well. Right, from that. So you'll probably only see your name, only your folder, so that when you log in as you, that's the only one you'll see. It should be easy to figure out which one of these should be yours, right, in here. You'll also see, though, class resources. And class resources has all the different weeks, lessons in here. And if you open up lesson 1 folder, right, here's the instructions. That's what we're actually looking at right there. There are those instructions. This is a copy of the PowerPoint that we actually watched last week. I'm going to catch up on. And then here is an AutoCAD drawing, and you're going to be using that this week, and you're going to copy that over to your personal folder on the S drive. And that is these instructions. Here is you're going to come in here, you're going to find lesson 1 sample.dwg. All AutoCAD files are DWG from this class resources folder, and you're going to move that over to your own personal folder on the S drive where we were just looking at it. So I'm going to copy this. All right. Click on it. I can hit Control C on my keyboard and that copies it, or I can right click and I am going to show more options. I'm going to copy that from there. And now I'm going to come to back to the folder with all of our users in it. And I'm going to come back to my sample student file or student folder. I'll open that up. Clicking here, I'm going to hit Control V and that will paste that file in there. And it pasted in, takes a little bit. And there it is. So I've copied that out of class resources, lesson 1, and I've put it into my personal folder under that. And actually we want to create, each week we want to create a folder within this. So I made a mistake here, I should have done this first. I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to call that week 1. And because each week that we come to lab, we're going to have a different folder within our user folder. And I'm going to grab this and just drag it over, and I'm going to move it into week 1. And I moved it over. Now, if I open up week 1, there's week 1 sample drawing from that. And that's what we wanted to do. That's what we wanted to be with that. And that's the start of this instructions here. And so we've moved that file over, we've put it on the S drive into our personal folder for our class, and we have copied that file we're going to start with. And most weeks we have a file like that you're going to have to copy over into your own personal workspace, into your own personal folder, and then we're going to use that in our class. And then you're going to make other files and keep them in there and so forth and work ahead from that. So there's our week 1 folder. We've moved that over and it's in there. The class resources, right? This is a read-only folder, and so you will not be able to save anything into any of these class resource subfolders. You can't edit this file in here and save it to the same place. And sometimes people forget and they'll open it up. They'll see, oh, I'll just double-click it and I open it, and then they have a problem and they say, well, I can't save it. So what's the problem? Why can't I save this? It's because you didn't actually copy it over to your own folder first. You can save it to your own folder. You should have write access to your own folder. And then once it's copied, don't open it until you've moved it over and you have your own copy of it. And then you can double click it and it should open. And in the lab, it's not always sure which file is going to open that. And you want to make sure that you're opening it with Civil 3D or AutoCAD. And in fact, I think you have Civil 3D 2024 and AutoCAD 2024 on the computers in the lab, and there's some other versions of programs on there as well. And I'm going to close this out because I don't want to open 2023. Let me get this closed. It's a big program. It takes a while to to move it around. You have a lot of options, and so there's also Civil or Autodesk Map 3D and some other versions, and sometimes students will open the wrong one. So one of the best ways to find it is you come up here into your all of your menu of all of your programs. They're loaded. Come down here, Civil 3D and AutoCAD all live underneath the Autodesk, or sometimes they have their own folder under here. Under Autodesk, you may have different versions of programs. Some of if you've got Map 3D on your computers, which a lot of computers used to have, you can also open the .dwg files, but it doesn't give you the same tools. So you don't want to use it. You want to do 2 options. You're going to want to use Civil 3D Imperial, which means it's using feet and inches for measurements, or you're going to want to use AutoCAD 2024. And so either one, open it with that. And so we're going to open it with Civil 3D 2024. Civil 3D 2024 has all of the AutoCAD commands and all of the same menus built into it, as well as a bunch of stuff for highway design. And so it's okay to use Civil 3D in this class as we're editing the files, or straight up AutoCAD. And on this computer I'm working on, I don't have AutoCAD. I only have Civil 3D. All right, from that. And so it pops up and it's going to ask you to open files. All right, from there. And I'm going to open up, browse to where we're at. And it says, well, I'm in documents. So you have to go, now you have to browse to where that folder is, where your folder on your S drive is, and find that file. And so that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to come here to the S drive. I'm going to come to College of Engineering, COE, CE151, and open up that folder. And now you're going to find your name in here, in whichever folder is yours. And we have samples for sample student. So I'm going to open that up. And week 1, double click there. And now here's the file I moved over, and I'm going to open that. And it is going to open up in, say I'm using Civil 3D, but it'll look, except for these toolbars on the side, it's going to look the same, pretty much the same in AutoCAD. And I'm going to make it look even more the same here in a second. I'm going to get rid of this toolbar, so because you won't have that if you're using AutoCAD. And I'm going to switch us over to drafting the annotation. And now my menu bars up here at the top are going to be the same as they are in AutoCAD. And so now there we go. It's going to be very similar, if not exactly the same in AutoCAD as, let's say I'm in Civil 3D right now, but I'm in the drafting mode for that. And you can change your workspaces. You can move it back to Civil 3D if you want, which gives you more commands to do road stuff. But this is the basic drafting one, and that's where we want to start with. And this is the file. All you're seeing in here is lesson 1 sample text. So now we've moved the file over. We found our folder on S drive. We have a copy of it in there. We've opened it up with either AutoCAD or Civil 3D. And now we're ready to start working with it. And here's the instructions. And so you can follow through here. We've done this whole part here, this general part, one from there. If for some reason you can't get to your S drive, you can save your files on your own personal H drive. But later on, when we're ready to grade stuff, you have to move it back to the S drive. You should all have folders. I can see them. They're all in there. If you don't have access, if there's something broken, just let me know, and we'll work through that and get that fixed. All right. And so now we're ready for this part. So we're looking in chapters 1 and 2 from the book. So if you want to open up your book and page along, or if you've got the electronic version, you can pull it up on the side screen and page along with that. And so we're going to start looking at different things. I'm going to show you some examples here of what we're looking to do today in this, and then I'll turn you loose and you can work further ahead on it. And here's the general instructions. Each week we'll have an instruction set up like this that you can work through on that. And then you'll be saving files, as we talked about before, you'll be saving files into your folders as you go. And let me go back to instructions. So the first thing they're asking us to do is add the dynamic toggle box on the lower menu bar. See the lesson notes if you're not sure how. From that, type line and try typing a line using your middle scroll bar. I'm going to move this over to the side so I can see what I'm doing over here. Oops, that's not right. Okay. All right. So we've got all that on here. The dynamic toggle box is over here. So if you don't see some of your tools here, you can turn those on and off by this lower right corner of it. And so here I can click on that and we can see if I have dynamic input turned on. I don't. So these are all of the menu boxes down here. And if it has a check marks, they are currently being displayed. If it doesn't have a check mark, they're not being displayed. So I'm turning on dynamic input, right? And you can toggle that on and off, and that is this button right here. That looks like. For dynamic input, we'll talk a little bit more later about what dynamic input means for that. So there's either absolute input or there's dynamic input. And dynamic is a relative reference from where you last were. Absolute is what it sounds like. It's an absolute coordinate system. In that. So that's what dynamic does for us. We can do line, and so here's the line command, and I can draw lines. And I'm just using the left mouse button as I click along, and when I'm done, I can hit the right mouse button and click cancel, and that finishes it out right from that. So that's part two, was to try out the line command. Right from that, you can use the middle mouse wheel, and if you use the middle mouse wheel and roll it forward and backward, it toggles like this, and so it'll zoom in and out. If you hold down the mouse wheel and move around, it pans. You get the little hand shape here, and it's panning your drawing around. And you'll use this a ton because you're always moving around the drawing to see where you're at. So you're using the wheel to zoom in and out. You're holding the wheel down and moving around to pan. And that's what that's doing for you. Right from there. If you hit spacebar, right, now you can see I've got a prompt back up here, and it is ready to start drawing a line again. So it asks you in the instructions here, what does spacebar do? And the spacebar repeats the last command. So that's how AutoCAD is built. It originally started with a bunch of keyboard commands, and it still has those built into it. So spacebar repeats the last command you did, or whatever you did. So if you deleted something, you hit spacebar again, it'll try to delete something else and move through. So it's whatever you last did, spacebar repeats that from there. If you now click on anything you drew before, right, now you've got these little blue boxes. We call those grips. And so those will pop up. And so now you can do dynamic editing of these elements that you just drew, and I can move stuff around. And so I can grab those grips and I can move them around. I can snap them onto each other, that kind of stuff. And that's what, if you click on it now, you've made your elements editable and you can do things with them. And so you've selected them and then you can do things with it. So that was the next piece, is clicking on things and seeing what happens. In the menu bar down at the bottom, it says try turning on ortho mode or turning it off. And so there's some different buttons here. We can go through these. This turns on a grid. Personally, I do not like the grid, but some people think it looks cool, so they turn it on. So that's your choice. Here's snap mode. You can turn snap mode on and off. What does snap do? Snap is if I've got the line. Now, see how it's kind of moving very jerkily? It's because it's trying to snap to something. If we turn on the grid, what it's snapping to is each of those little grid points from that. And, if we were doing mechanical engineering stuff, this would probably be handier because everything is very even units. In civil engineering, it's not, I've never drawn anything in civil engineering with the snap turned on because our stuff is all very odd dimensions, very odd distances through things, and so snapping something doesn't help. If you wanted to draw it, if you have something that's exactly 7 units long by 3 units high or something, right, sure, snap will be fine. You can change this grid, and the book tells you how to do all that. But see, most of the time in civil engineering, we never touch that. I do use ortho now and then. Ortho is what that means is that you can only draw on right angles from wherever you started. So turn it on, I do another line command, and so now you see the line isn't following my cursor. It stays exactly 90 degrees from my last point. And I can go up, or I can go to the side, either side, or back down. But that's what ortho mode does. And so that's forcing you to draw things that are 90 degrees from each other. So your angles are always 90 degrees. Actually, that snapped off, so it went over to the side there. That's what ortho mode does to you. I do use that often on through there. So that's what ortho mode is. That's the other thing you had in there. So if you click on one of the lines and you hit E, and then hit spacebar. Spacebar is like the enter button in AutoCAD. You can hit, you can click something and type in E, which means erase, and hit enter, and it disappears. Or you can click something and type E and hit the spacebar. The same thing happens. Spacebar is equivalent to the enter button or the return button on your keyboard. And the enter button will also repeat the last command, same as the spacebar does. So they're interchangeable. They use spacebar because it's easier to hit. It's a bigger button, and if you're doing CAD really fast and you had to use your keyboard to draw stuff in the past, they use the spacebar for that because it's fast through there. Next instructions. They have the snap option on the toolbar, and so we've already looked at that. We've turned snap mode on and off. So we've already played with that a little bit. If you're zoomed in and you're looking at this corner and you want to see everything you've drawn, you have nothing, you're not in a command right now, so you have no command active. You can type in Z spacebar E spacebar, and that means zoom extents, and that shows you everything in the drawing all at once. And I use that command all the time. That's a very popular command, so don't forget that one. So you're zoomed in close, and you type in zoom Z spacebar E spacebar, and it's zoom extents, and it pops up, and it shows you everything you've got there. That's the first part. That's instructions that we had for chapters 1 and 2. That's, I guess, a quick way to get through it. A few other things I think to point out. We've also got object snap mode down here, and so that's polar tracking. We don't want that. And this button down here is object snap, and I can turn it on or off, but I can also click this drop down button next to it, and now I have all these options. And that is, if I'm trying to draw lines or trying to select things, I can snap to different elements within that. And I usually leave tangent nearest perpendicular on, endpoint, center, easy turn on node, and that's easy enough to get started. And what that means is now if I start a line, if I hover near this, see that little box pops up on there? That means I'm snapping to that point. So I'm going to be right exactly on top of that point. And now if I hover over here, it snaps right to it. If it's got that little hourglass shape, that means I'm snapping on the line to the nearest point to it. Over here, if that box shows up, I'm snapping to an endpoint, and it tells you what you're snapping to. Right, through that. So I'm able to snap on that. If I turn snap off, my object snap off, I don't get any of those little boxes now. And I can get near something, and I think, well, I think I'm on top of it, and I click, and I'll finish out that line. And now let's zoom in. Let's see if I got that. Nope, I didn't. I missed the corner. But if I had turned on object snap, I would have snapped directly to that corner. But I'd missed it by a little bit. And that's why we like object snap. It makes our drawings cleaner. It completes our shapes. Yeah, it just works really well for that. Selecting things, you can select things a couple different ways. If you click once with the left button and then move your cursor, and I'm not pushing any buttons down now. I clicked once, I move my cursor over. I click again, I have selected everything that's inside that box has been selected. And if I hit escape, that deselects everything. And if you're in a command and you don't want to be in the command anymore, just hit escape key. We use that a lot. Right. If you push your left mouse once and then roll this direction and then click again, only things that were completely inside that box will be selected. So we'll do that again. And so I'm clicking here and I'm moving over. And what you'll notice is like the top part of this shape here is not inside my box and it's not selected. So only things that are elements that are completely inside that box will be selected. All right. Escape. And that's if I click once and move to the right. If I click once and move to the left, anything it touches is selected. So there's two different ways of selecting things in AutoCAD. One is kind of a restrictive select, and only things that are completely enclosed in your little box will be selected. And that's if you're moving to the right with your cursor. If you're moving to the left with the cursor, anything it touches, anything that box touches is selected. So all elements. Otherwise, if I move to the left, it's only things that are completely within that box are selected. And you can keep adding to your selection until you do stuff. So I can keep selecting things and it doesn't get rid of the selections until I hit escape. And then hit escape and then I lose all those selections. So that's probably a good thing to remember. You can also hold the left button down and you can draw weird shapes and select things through your weird shapes. But again, which direction you're drawing in makes a difference. And so if I'm circling clockwise, it's only things that are completely contained within that circle are being selected. If I circle counterclockwise, anything I touch gets selected. So it's similar to the left versus right boxing, if you do the box. I typically just click once, move over, click again, that's how I select stuff. I rarely do the shaped one. Right, from that. So a couple, again, quick things to look at. when you're how to navigate and how to use basic auto command. I'm going to turn my object snap back on because I like object snap right through there. And AutoCAD does not, well, it does do automatic backup saves every 15 minutes, but if you want to save your file, you do have to click save. And if it doesn't save for you, that means you probably don't, your file is probably read-only, and maybe you didn't copy it over to your own folder. So double check on that. If you made a mistake and you want to go back, you can hit U, and that means undo, and hit the space bar. And you can just keep hitting the space bar and it'll keep undoing things. And like that. You can come up here. Here's the undo button. And you can hit this little drop down that shows you all the last things you did. And you can back up however many you want through there. Now, so I did quite a bit. Here's redo. No, I didn't want to erase all those things. I'll put them all back in from that through there. So there's that. If things don't look right, like you think, if you draw a circle, sometimes they look chunky, you type in regen and that will redraw your entire drawing. Kind of reloads it or redraws it and refreshes everything. Sometimes you delete pieces and there's little chunks left. You hit regen, that'll fix that. So you'll probably use regen quite a bit. At least I do. Right, through there, you can always type in help and a little help box shows up and you can enter what your problem is and it'll try to help you with it. Through that. F1 also I think does the same thing. Yep, so there's F1 and that'll tell you how to use any of the parts that you're working on. You can type in the name of the command or it'll suggest the names of the commands that you might want to use on that. Let's see if there's anything else we need to really talk about. You're going to create a new file. So this is chapter 3 in the instructions. You're going to create a new file up here. If you come up to this little tile up here, you can create a new file and it pops up and it says, do you want to start it with a drawing template? Nope, I want to do a drawing.dwg. So pick that. You can pick where you want to save it. You always want to save it on your S drive. So I'm going to navigate to my S drive. Don't change the name of the COE folder, that'll be bad. Here's our folder. Here is my sample student. There we go. And what file name am I going to give it? And my last name, which I'm student sample right now, lab1_1.dwg. It's wants me to select a template. All right, I messed that up. Let's start over. Let's do a new file. What template do I want to use? We're just going to use the standard Civil 3D one, that's fine. So to open a new file now when I save it. Now when I save this file, it should bring up, there we go. It's going to ask me where to save it. Now I'm going to save it as sample. Sample. It's my last name. You can type in your last name for that part. lab1_1.dwg. And what version are we saving it as? Save it as the newest version. It's 2018. This is the version, the type of file type we're using. So now we've saved it, and now it changes the name of the tab. So here is our other tab. If there's a star here, it means you haven't saved it recently, and so it has unsaved changes in it. This one has no unsaved changes in it. It's blank. And so it doesn't have the star. And so that's our second file we made. And you can jump back and forth between the files just by clicking those tabs up there. And that's the tabs at the top left in your drawing area, below the menu bar from that. So we've created that file that we want, and then we're going to do exercises. Start on page 52 in the book through that, and we'll work through those exercises on that. And that's just sample drawing ones. And so at the end of the instructions, move this over. At the end of the instructions, I copied what those instructions are supposed to be. Start on page 52 in case you don't have your book yet. So not everybody has their book always early on in the semester, so you can follow from here or you can open up your book and just walk through here. First one, you're going to draw a horizontal line, 2-unit length starting at 1, 1 from that. So let's do that. and you can use any method you want. So I'm going to start my line, and right, and so I'm going to start the line command, and it says specify your first point. So if you read right next to the cursor, it's asking you what you want to do, or it's telling you down here in the command bar what it's waiting for. And so it says, oh, you started the line command, and you need to specify what your first point is. So what's my first point? I'm going to type in 1, 1. And 1, 1 wasn't near my screen, so I'm going to scroll back out so I can see it. So there's 1, 1. And now I'm ready to roll. So it started there. That should be 1, 1. And now it says specify the next point, pick location 3, 1. And I want to turn off dynamic because I don't really want dynamic turned on right now. So my next point, and it's asking you down here, what's your next point? And I'm going to do 3, 1. And I don't see it, and it's probably because my scale is off. So I zoom in. I'm using my middle scroll bar wheel to zoom in, and now I've got it. I started here at 1, 1, and now I'm at 3, 1. So it should be a line that's 2 points long. And I can hit enter, and that ends the command. And so now I've got a line here, and it should be 2 units long. And if I type in ID, it should tell me. So that's 1, 1. And if I type in ID here, I can check my points, and that is that x equals 3 and y equals 1. So yep, I did it right. So I have it at the right point. So that's the first one. So next is draw a line, a vertical line of 2 units length starting at 4, 1, and it tells you here. I'll show you the instructions. It's telling you how to do it. Right. Start at 4, 1 and go to 4, 3 using any method. And then you hit enter. So we're going to do 4, 1 and 4, 3 and move across. And so I'm going to start my line command again. Oops, there we go. Line command, I'm going to do 4, 1, and I'm going to go to 4, 3. All right, and I'm going to hit enter to finish my command out. So now I've drawn the second line. Right. And then you're going to, now it says draw a diagonal line starting at 5, 1. So start here. What's my phone? I'm going to do 5, 1. And I'm going to go to 7, 3. Right. Hit enter. And I finished my line. So now I've drawn those 3 lines. That's what it should look like. And it's the first 3 stages. And you're just getting used to how to draw stuff right, from that. And then finally, 4 is drawing a circle of unit radius. 1 will wear a circle. Circle's right here in the menu bar. And you have a lot of different options. And I'm going to do center radius right from that. And it says pick that. And so it's asking you where is the center. Specify the center of your circle. So I'm going to do 9, 2. And my radius, specify radius of circle, pick location 10, 3, or 10, 2, sorry, 10, 2. And there's my circle. So that's the first 4 steps of those instructions, and that gets you there, and that is without dynamic input turned on. Now the next things you should do are turning dynamic input on, which is this button down here. You can turn that on and then walk through what the next instructions are. And you're actually going to redraw all of this using dynamic input so you can get a feel for the differences and how that works. Right. And that goes through there. Yep. And then you'll draw some more points, and then you'll do some polar tracking. And that'll finish out those instructions for lesson 1. On that. You also have homework then assigned, and so now that you've learned some basic drawing stuff, you can get in there and do some homework and show us how much you know or how much you've learned off of that. A couple other things. So saving, you can save up here. Here's our little save button. Save it there. You can come over here to this little drop-down icon. No, it's still saving. There it goes. It's a little slow there. So you can save. You can save as. Give it a new name. Right. From there, you can save it as a template. We don't usually do that. We usually save it as a drawing. Through that, you can publish it. Publish it means you can turn it into, send it as an email or transmit it. You can export it, which you can make a PDF out of it. You can print it. We'll do all that stuff later on in the class. right from there. And you have some other options, and you have units and stuff to play with, and we'll teach you all that stuff as you do other labs in here. The other thing, just want to show you real quick, is a command called options. And options is like the master menu of everything you ever wanted to customize within AutoCAD. You can tell it where to find your files, where to find where you normally start from, right through there. You can do save as, how do you want to save it? How often do you want to do an automatic backup save? This one's set to 10 minutes. Maybe that's the common one. That's a good thing to do. And sometimes your AutoCAD will pause. You're like, well, it's not drawing. I don't know what it's doing. Well, it's probably backing up. It's saving in the background and everything freezes up while it does that. So don't leave that on. You want to leave automatic save on. You don't want to turn that off. It comes in pretty handy. Display is a pretty common one though. And the default AutoCAD version has like a slightly gray background, which kind of annoys me. I like the pure black background. It's easier to see lines on it, I think. And to change that, if you go to options to display and then drop down here to colors, it pops up. You're in 2D model space. That's where we're working right now. It's our uniform background. And what color do you want? Well, I can make it yellow and apply and close. Now my background is yellow. Whoa, that's bright. I can come back in here and like I say, it started out as, I don't know, some slightly gray color. I just pick black, apply and close, apply, okay, I'm done. And I don't know if you can see it in the video that well. It's much darker and much better. I know some of the computers in the lab, it starts with like a gray background, and I can find that really hard to find the different lines on. This pure black background, I find it's a lot easier to pick out where your lines are on that. So I would suggest if your background isn't that already, that you make that change. One other thing I like to change when I'm working in AutoCAD, if I go back to options, is under user preferences. So that was display. If I go to user preferences on this tab over here, is what do I want my right click on my mouse to do for me? So I'm going to do right click customization. And I am going to change it from doing a shortcut menu. I don't want the shortcut menu to show every time I hit the right click. I want it to repeat the last command. In edit mode, the same thing. And in command mode, I want to mean enter. And apply and close, click OK. And what does that do for you? Now when I'm drawing a line, when I'm done, I just hit the right click and I'm done. Before, if I hit right click, it would bring up a menu and I had to choose what I wanted to do. That slows me down. So I like to do it this way. Right click just means enter. If I hit it again, it starts the same command again. Right? I hit the right click. That is the same as if I hit the space bar or the enter on the keyboard. It finished my command. If I hit the right button again on the mouse, it starts the last command or it repeats the last command because it acts just like a space bar enter. And around I go and I can draw. And that speeds you up a little bit. So those are my two recommendations. Those are the first two things I change every time I get on a new computer. I change my background to be pure black, and I change my inputs for my mouse user preferences to act like the right click, the right button on the mouse acts like the enter button on those. That should be a good start, and we'll work from there.